We've seen a pretty grim warning from Anthony Fauci this week. He was saying that we could soon expect to see 100,000 new cases per day across the states. The rising death toll, of course, also alarming. It's very sad to see.
It certainly is. We set just yesterday in the United States a new record at 46,000 new cases. And there's an estimated about 2.6 million active cases in the United States right now. So the numbers that Dr. Fauci was warning of don't seem too far off, and they're certainly of great concern to anyone who cares about the people of the United States, the economy of the United States, or the United States' position in the world. So a grim day indeed.
And just how did mask wearing become so political, Gordon? It's quite bizarre the extent we're seeing the controversy over mask wearing there at the moment.
Yeah, people tend to chalk this up to the partisan environment in Washington, D.C., but it's strange to think of mask wearing as a partisan issue. This is really much more an issue of Trump and Trumpism. The president's own disdain for wearing a mask, despite the advice of his own administration and his own medical leaders, particularly Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, really is what has been manifested more broadly. The problem is, at this point, the United States really has no other viable option. Most countries around the world have figured out you've got to do extensive testing, you've got to do contact tracing, and you've got to do isolation, and that has to be augmented by personal habits like hand washing and social distancing and avoiding large crowds and wearing masks. It's not rocket science at this point. Most countries in the world have figured it out. Unfortunately, because of the environment in which the president's own activities and own tenor have set such a strong precedent, this has become a way where his strongest supporters have followed his example, and it's become highly political and unfortunately political. And at this point, the other options are no longer available to the United States. It is so widespread, real containment, real tracing, contact tracing, isolation don't seem to be an option. And so face masks seem to be the last line of defense.
Yeah, I mean, academics are going to have field days, aren't they, examining the different strategies from around the world and what worked and what it didn't, but it's still just a bit of a test case at the moment. Gordon, just looking closer to home, the federal government has said just an hour or so ago, we heard from Scott Morrison, that it is considering giving safe haven visas to Hong Kong residents. It comes after those new security laws were imposed by China. We saw overnight Britain has already offered residents there the option to resettle. Would you expect we'll see something of an exodus of residents from Hong Kong as a result?
I would expect to see some of an exodus. There was a significant exodus, if you recall, after the initial negotiation between the UK and China around the special status of Hong Kong, so back in the 1990s. At that time, Vancouver in the western part of Canada was widely referred to as Hongcouver, because people were looking for that. Since that time, as Hong Kong's economy has boomed, most people have just kept a second or British passport as an exit strategy. Unfortunately, with this very draconian new national security law put in by China, which violates the fundamental premises of the basic agreement between the UK and China about the status of Hong Kong, it is going to be causing a lot of people to rethink their residence in Hong Kong and their legal risk of being in Hong Kong. And yet, we still even see today remarkably courageous demonstrators on the streets. The numbers are obviously down given that the risk at hand. But I think it's impressive what the UK has done. I anticipate that other countries around the world will follow suit, just to make sure that those people who want to continue to express their views democratically have an option.